Good afternoon and welcome. I'm going to be doing a presentation this evening on implementing culture change into an established company or corporation. When you talk about culture change, there's a lot of areas, a lot of dynamics, a lot of aspects that you have to consider, especially changing a culture that is already established. And yes, if you are a part of a company that is already doing business, there is an established culture. What we're going to be talking about this evening, and my research was done, is the area of implementing that culture change. The title of this presentation is just this: change. It's not something just found in your couch. Hopefully it'll be found at the company that you work with. First of all, what is corporate culture? When you think of corporate culture, I think of Louis Gassner. Mr. Gassner was the CEO of IBM for years, and at a large conference recognizing his accomplishments, the question was asked, what is corporate culture? After pausing for a few minutes, his response was, corporate culture is everything. Wow. Someone in this position, at this large of a corporation, and he's saying that culture is everything, and now we're going to talk about changing that? That's why it's such an undertaking. Forbes.com defines culture as consisting of group norms of behaviors and the underlying shared values that keeps those norms in place. Webster defines it as a particular society that has its own beliefs, way of life, and etc. The real definition of corporate culture, it's whatever we make it. Or, in this case, whatever we have made it and what we're going to do to change it. There's three areas that I want to look at when you look at implementing the change of corporate culture. Those three areas are people, procedures, and policy. First, the people. The question always comes up, do the people have to change? The answer is easy. It depends. What I mean by that is simple. If the people that are already with the culture are open to that change and want to be a part of that change, then absolutely you want them to be a part of it. As a matter of fact, the more you can keep in a lot of ways, the better. Less cost for training, less cost for development, people that already do know what the business does and how the company works, good, bad, or indifferent. Also, involvement of people. This is probably the most important point of the whole presentation. You have to have their involvement. If they feel like this new culture is part of what they're bringing to it, and this change is part of them and their ideas and their concepts and their ways of doing things, the chance of getting that buy-in is tremendous. You definitely need the involvement of the employees to make this work. Also, when it comes to people, it's like a reverse. Transparency of leadership. Those employees are going to be looking up at management, upper management, senior management, leadership, president. They're going to be looking up to see if what you're pushing down is real to you. So you need to be transparent in this whole process. And we're going to talk about that a little bit later. But it's very important to be transparent, because those people that you are pushing for these changes are also looking back at you to see if you're pushing yourself to buy into the same changes. The second area that we're going to talk about is procedures. Question I love to ask any company when I'm doing a presentation. What time is your 9 o'clock meeting? Or in this case, your 8 o'clock meeting? The reason I ask, I think of Tom Coughlin, the coach of the Jaguars in the past and now with the New York Giants. His 8 o'clock meetings, he expects you in that room ready to go at 7:55. That's the culture that he creates. And I heard him speak one time, and he talked about even something as simple as meetings. If you push that not only are you always on time, you're ahead of schedule, it helps form that culture. How will they know what time the 8 o'clock meeting is? Two ways. One, you're going to push it down. You're going to make sure, you're going to post it, memos, emails, whatever you have to do to make sure they know. And then when they walk in there at 8 o'clock, maybe a few minutes before 8 o'clock, you're going to be there, ready. And then you're going to start that meeting at 8 o'clock. People still coming in, important people aren't there yet. Let them come into a meeting once or twice late. That transparency kicks in, and they're going to have to look in the mirror and say, hey, if I expect these others to do, then I have to do. So that 8 o'clock meeting will start at 8 o'clock at the latest. And also, whose procedures are these? That's very important. If you remember on slide 2, we talked about the importance of getting the buy-in and letting these procedures be part of what the staff and employees generate and come up with. So when you look at the procedures, the 8 o'clock meeting starts at 8 o'clock. You're going to make sure they know by pushing it down and by living it. And then also remind them and make sure they understand these policies procedures were created by and for them. Now we're going to look at implementing the change of policies. They must reflect the new culture. You need to get your policy and procedure book out and go through every policy. Every policy. And 2 very important parts. It has to reflect the new culture. And point 2 is it can't reflect the old culture. You have to really think about every policy. Every area of that policy. Is the new policy reflecting what you want for the new culture? If it is, move forward with it. If it isn't, or if it's reflecting the old, you need to go back to square one, look at that policy, and figure out what changes you can implement to make it fit. And remember, these policies are the roadmap to the future. Yes, the people are very important. Maybe most important aspect of it. At least that's my belief. The procedures are very important for the reasons we discussed. But the policies are your actual roadmap. Because when people have questions or when situations come up, you're going to have to go to those policies and look them up and see what they state, see what culture it presents. So the policies is the roadmap to the future. It's all about the buy-in. Let me tell you, first of all, it starts with the employees, the people that actually do the work. I don't care if it's people, how they work with customers or how they order or how their responsibilities unfold. It's their changes. And that's why I said in the very beginning, it's maybe the most important part for them to understand and be a part of. Also, it starts at the top. Going back to that transparency thing. Those workers, when leadership, senior management, president, whoever comes through the building or is seen wherever, inside or outside of the company, they're going to look and watch that person and see if they're living what they're asking their employees to live. And the transparency from top to bottom, but it has to start at the top. I've mentioned transparencies. This is the second and third slide, and there's a reason. It's so important for everybody to feel there's no hidden agendas, there's no rules behind the rules, there's no favoritism, there's none of that. It's just everybody buying into this new culture and moving forward with it. Now it's full steam ahead. You got the right people, you've got the right procedures in place, you have your roadmap, which is your policy and procedure book, you've implemented and you have all of that ready. Now it's full steam ahead, and it's simple. You have to have belief in the processes, belief in the people, and belief in the culture. The processes are based around your procedures and your policies. So if those are all in line with that new culture, the belief in the processes should come very natural. Belief in the people. Well, each person, either by you or someone that reports to you or reports to them, each person was evaluated, assessed, and the decision made was this person can move forward with this new culture, or you brought new people in to replace those that couldn't buy into the new culture. Well, if you have all that in place, it's simple. You just have to have belief in the culture, which is second nature at this point. You have everything in line, you have everything organized, you have everything ready. Now it's just a matter of implementing it day by day, week by week, year by year. And understand a culture doesn't change overnight. But with these areas addressed appropriately, the new culture can be implemented. And that company can be the face of the culture that you set out for it to be.